Welcome into the Cubs Daily Podcast. We're recapping Game 2 of the Wild Card Series, which the Cubs have dropped to the Padres, setting up a very eventful Game 3 on Thursday at Wrigley Field. Lance Brozdowski joined by Alex Cohen, our play-by-play guy. Listen, you said you were going to watch this game with me.
I did.
And then you got tickets and went to the game. And you caught a foul ball, so it's a pretty good exchange.
Yes. So first and foremost, the rule of thumb is if you have any obligations, if somebody comes to you and says, I have Cubs tickets for a playoff game at Wrigley Field, you drop every single thing that you're doing and you go to said Cubs game. So I lied to you. I'm not apologetic for that. It was a great atmosphere at Wrigley Field, but unfortunately, Cubs, they got the loss. Did catch a foul ball cleanly, 6th inning. You can't go back and watch it because they didn't have the right camera angle. But I thought it would bring good karma. I gave it to a young kid, the foul ball to a young kid. Thought it would bring a Cubs victory. It didn't happen, so next time I get a foul ball, I'm keeping it.
Yeah, that's absolutely the move. All right, let's jump right into this. We'll go to the 5th inning. The moment of the game here, you have Shota in the game facing Tatis, starting off the inning here. He ends up walking him. Very, very good AB. Nothing you could do. He gets the first. You have Luis Arraez coming up. Arraez then bunts in an 0-1 count to push Tatis to second base. In this very moment, you see the ESPN broadcast cuts to Mike Soroka warming in the pen. The Cubs basically have 3 options. You could either bring in to face Manny Machado. You could bring in Mike Soroka. You could have Shota face Manny Machado. Or you can walk Manny Machado to get to Jackson Merrill. These are your 3 options. Counsell said in postgame that it sounded like walking to get to Merrill was in consideration, but they decided not to. They pitched to Manny Machado. He leaves a splitter a little bit catches too much of the plate, basically. He's trying to go down with it, and it ends up middle. Machado blasts it, pushes it from a 1-0 game to a 3-0 game, which would be the deciding factor. How do you analyze that decision-making?
Yeah, I think the vibe in the stadium when I saw that there was a runner on second, Manny Machado up, I thought they were going to walk him.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to walk him, put a runner on first, then have Shota Imanaga against lefty Jackson Merrill, young hitter with the wind blowing in from right field, where he's most likely going to do damage is right field, right center, not really able to drive the ball with the wind conditions. Manny Machado with a crosswind out the left, possibly blowing out down the line. He got a splitter right at the belt. Hit it very far. I thought that they were going to walk him.
Yeah, I thought they were too. It's an unfortunate spot in the game, and it swung in the opposite direction of the Cubs' favor. But it's tough. I think Shota pitched relatively well outside of that individual moment. He had a pretty good spot in the 4th inning where Merrill walks, and then Bogaerts strikes out on a sweeper, which is not a pitch he throws to right-handed hitters a lot. Getting a guy basically man on first, no one out, to man on first, 1 out drops the probability of a run in that inning being scored by a lot. So he had some moments in this game.
Also,
I thought
fastball
really
velocity at 94 too.
Yeah, that's another
nice.
point here.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw some random notes at you, but one of the ones was that the postseason velocity bump's real. Like, we see guys usually tick up about a full mile per hour in the postseason, just from the juices, also probably from the fact that they're not throwing super deep into games. So Shota pulled after I think it was about 70 pitches or so. So you're just that level of intensity, you being in the stands yelling, I imagine juices everybody up a little bit more on the Cubs.
Especially with me yelling.
Yeah, especially with you yelling. But yeah, postseason velocity bumps are real. Dylan Cease also had it as well. He was up almost a full mile per hour. As I mentioned, Shota was up almost a tick and a half on some of his pitches. That to me was big because I talk a lot on this daily pod about how Shota this year, from a velocity standpoint, has just not been throwing as hard as he was last season. He was more 92 plus last year. He's been more 91 plus this year. Usually as you jump up about a tick of velo, you're cutting off around 30 to 40 points a slug. Just a better probability of you not allowing damage. And unfortunately, I don't know who you blame in this situation, really. Like,
do you go let your guy who's throwing well, it's like, hey, go get him out.
Yeah,
and he
exactly.
Didn't. And he threw an 82 mile per hour splitter that caught too much of the plate.
Yeah, it's really it. It's really that is the differentiator in this game, unfortunately.
When you were watching the game live, did you think they were going to walk him? Did you think they were going to Soroka?
I wasn't even thinking of the walk. I remember standing up and looking at Tom Preisman behind us, who edits this and does the compound with Ian Happ, and I was like, Soroka's in the pen. Like, do you bring in him to face Machado? And then Cliff, after the homer was hit, was like, I would have walked him to face Merrill, and I was like, I didn't realize Merrill was on deck. So that was obviously the far more logical conclusion of just like, you have the lefty advantage on Merrill, as you're saying. Why not go to that as opposed to letting – and, I'm going to say the sneaky thing, the Luis Arraez bunt was fascinating to me because he goes down 0-1. He bunts. I wonder if he, laces a single down the line or something like that. If you in the dugout are like,
he's out, Soroka,
he just walked Tatis, hard contact to Rise, pull him, or definitely don't throw to Machado. I wonder if the Rise bunt literally forced the decision onto Counsell, where it's like, you got 2 outs. Do you want to take your chances against Machado with 2 outs and Shota? Whereas if Arraez got on and it was first and second, maybe Tatis went first and third. I wonder if there was more pressure there to get a better matchup.
Where I'm curious with is, well, you have an opener and Andrew Kittredge starts, so Shota Imanaga doesn't face Manny Machado in a big spot. And then you leave him in to face Manny Machado in a big spot. Yeah. And that's also watching Shota, see how he's throwing, seeing the velocity uptick. There's a lot of different factors that come along with it. But yeah,
that Counsell calling?
Yeah, it's just saying, what are we doing here?
Counsell's like, Mr. Cohen, I don't know what's going on here. You're kidding.
It's not Craig Counsell. I love that we're doing this right now.
We'll cut around
no, I think that's where I'm curious about. It's like you brought in Andrew Kittredge as an opener so that Shota wouldn't face Manny Machado in a big spot early that sets the tone of the game, but you do leave him in a possible situation that sets the tone in the middle of the game, and Machado obviously won the battle.
The opener idea makes a lot of sense, but oftentimes what I think it does is just defers some of the decision-making to different points in the game. Like, you still have to get 27 outs, you know what I mean? And you still have to probably face the same hitters in the certain spots. I get the concept of, like, okay, openering him means, you know, Shota gets to face maybe some of the lefties after Tatis and Machado with a third time instead of facing those guys a second time. Kittredge also, like, I saw some flack online of why opener him, it didn't work. Listen, the Tatis ball and the Rise ball were both outside of the zone. You don't allow barrels outside of the zone. Yeah. I thought he looked fine. You now run into a situation, though, where you're not entirely sure on his availability, or if he is available, I imagine everybody's on deck for tomorrow in a winner-go-home game.
But he's the only pitcher who's gone back-to-back days.
So he'd be back-to-back, which means you probably need to find another righty arm in the pen. This gets to a larger point, which we could talk about, where you have Mason Miller, who threw 40 pitches in 2 days. You have Adrian Morejon, who's thrown 42 pitches in 2 days, both back-to-backs. So if you're the Padres, you have two of your best relievers now, or if you use them in this game 3, are throwing consecutive days. So the question becomes, how much of a performance hit do they take throwing a third day? Mason Miller did it one time earlier this year in Philadelphia in May. He threw 3 days in a row, but he only threw 30 pitches across those 3 days. This will be far past that.
And in higher leverage situations and higher intensity situations on the road, especially today, he got 5 outs. I would say that the up and down in game 1 was a lot more stress-free than the up and down in game 2. So to go back-to-back on that, it's a lot. That's difficult.
The larger point here is that the Cubs, I think, have a subtle bullpen advantage of, Palencia didn't throw game 2. He's got to be in there in some capacity in game 3. Brad Keller not in game 2. He's going to throw in game 3 in some capacity.
Drew Pomerantz as well.
You have the relievers.
Colin Ray available, throwing 96.
Colin Ray. There's a lot of guys that you can go to. I think Counsell has more, tools in his bag compared to Schilt, who has probably better tools, but perhaps some of those tools are now worn down to extend this metaphor a bit more, where I wonder whether the Cubs have a subtle advantage as this game gets late and it's tied.
Do you think that there is any chance that Mason Miller and Adrian Morejon are unavailable? I don't. I don't think they're unavailable. I'm going to answer my own question, then let you go. I don't think they're unavailable, but I don't foresee a situation where Mason Miller is going to get 5 outs like he did.
I agree. I think that Schilt's not going to tell you either way. He's probably just going to be like, we'll see how they're feeling, or everyone is on deck. That's the line. Like, hey, is Miller available? Everybody's available. And then, whether he's not going to throw Morejon is up to him. He's not going to tell the Cubs, hey, we're going to Kyle Hart here, or I don't even know who the lefty is in their pen. Yeah. David Morgan or something along those lines. So, yeah, I think it's in all hands on deck, right? You're going home if you don't win on Thursday at Wrigley Field. So
I think they will be available, but I don't think they'll be available to the capacity that they were today.
Totally agree with
I
that.
don't think that Adrian Morejon's going to get 4 outs, and I don't think that Mason Miller is going to get the opportunity to get 5 outs. So right there, I think that the Cubs have the subtle advantage because they have their better relievers and a more untapped, unkempt ability to say, hey, go out there and get me X amount of outs.
Agreed. No, I think that's totally the point. So tomorrow, it looks like we're getting Jamison Taillon off the top and Darvish. I imagine it's Darvish to Michael King in some capacity for the Padres. Taillon, I was looking at his splits, has been slightly less effective versus right-handed hitters, so I think we're going to run into a very similar scenario that we ran into in Game 1 and Game 2, which is, do you let this starting pitcher, face a Tatis or Machado in a leverage spot in the game? I can bet that he's not facing them a third time. The question is, if he turns over the lineup and you get it to a second time and you have runners on, do you then, you're playing for your life here, So, do you go to Palencia in the third or fourth inning.
I mean, maybe the fourth, but you're able to formulate your bullpen like you did in Game 1, where was the coaching managerial masterclass that Craig Counsell was able to do. The only question is if Andrew Kittredge isn't available, who fills into that spot?
That's a good question.
But you could also throw Colin Ray, who's a little bit more stretched out. So you're able to get more outs where you don't necessarily need Jameson Taillon to get you 6. He gets through 4, he gets you into the 5th. I think you're in a good spot.
I think you are as well. Last points here. 2 guys that I want to talk about who have not looked that great. Pete Armstrong, Kyle Tucker. Listen, Cliff and I were talking a little bit about Pete's swings. I kind of wish he was like firing entirely. Like he's stopping a lot of his swings short. I just wonder if it's like he's not seeing the ball well, or just he's in between things. Tucker is hitting balls. He's making contact, but he's not to the point where it's like you fear him in the lineup, I think. Whereas we felt that for the entirety of the first 2.5 months of the season, 3 months, 4 months of the season, he was electric. Everything he was hitting was hard. Now it's like he gets up and you're like, I really hope he can kind of knock a single the other way or get on through walk. Whereas before,
but that's not why you traded for him.
Exactly.
You didn't trade Cam Smith, Hayden Wesneski, and Isak Paredes for him to hit a single up the middle. You want him to drive the ball and come up with a big hit in October, and now he has this opportunity to do that for Game 3. And you bring up a really good point. We've talked a lot about the pitching. You don't win many baseball games when you score 0 runs.
0 runs. That's the big point. So tomorrow it's like Hap hasn't looked that great either. Hap, PCA, Tuck. Like Bush and Saya have looked fantastic. Corners look great. Swanson's ABs have been good.
At-bats. Yeah.
So those guys have good ABs. You're going to win this game. It feels to me like one of those 3 guys has to break out.
What, of Saya, PCA, or Hap?
Even if it's a base hit the other way, sawed-off jam shot, like anything, you need something from those guys.
So I think I said Saya. Saya's been great, but Tucker, PCA, or Hap.
PCA, Hap. Yep.
With PCA, there's obviously so much more value that he brings in center field.
I agree.
You brought in Kyle Tucker to get big hits. You're paying Ian Happ a lot of money. He's got a lot of big hits in his career. This is a situation at home, Game 3. One of those 2, you need a big hit.
You do. And that's the focus of the game. How deep does Taillon go? How are these lefties looking against whatever the Padres end up throwing at the Chicago Cubs? What else do we got? I don't think we got anything here.
No,
right?
I mean, you talked about Yu Darvish against Michael King, probably for the San Diego Padres. I can't imagine either of them are going to go, 4 or 5 innings. I would say, 2-3 inning increments. Michael King's a guy who has really good stuff. You said he's a free agent. We talked about this before.
I'm terrified of him a little bit.
Terrified.
He's a very good pitcher.
Buzzword right
it's one of those things where it's like Counsell's mentioned a lot about, we're talking getting Pete and Tucker on track. It's like we don't know when these guys are going to click. They're going to click at some point. Maybe it's next year. Hopefully it's tomorrow. But it's the same thing for a pitcher. King's coming off an injury. He's only thrown about 3 or 4 times for the Padres. He's allowed a lot of base runners, which was the same case with Dylan Cease, but Cease did not walk a lot of guys as we expected and did not have as much traffic on the bases as perhaps we expected. King, last postseason last year, was so good. I fear that tomorrow it clicks for him, even if he only gives you 2 to 3 innings. It's like, oh yeah, that's the Michael King.
And I think it's interesting with King because if you look at his stats, he's walked a lot of guys this year. But so is Dylan Cease, and the Cubs were really, really aggressive against Dylan Cease. So what I would almost expect, a little bit more patience against Michael King, and if they do get on the base pass, be more aggressive with Nico Horner, with Pete Armstrong. Just try to take an extra base, which is something that they've done all season long, haven't necessarily done this series.
Agreed. Tomorrow's game can slide a little bit based on the result of some of the other games. So it's a 2:08 right now, Central Time. It could slide to 4, and I think it could slide to 6:30 based on the results. So we don't entirely know the exact time of the game until late on Wednesday night. So if you're watching this on Thursday morning, you already know the game time. If not, perhaps you will figure it out very soon. But it's one of those slots. It'd be really cool to see a 6:40 game night. I imagine they might get more people in here.
That'd be buzzing.
That'd be buzzing. 2:08 would be the same. I mean, either way, Wrigley Field is a vibe.
The atmosphere has been great. I think that a night game tomorrow would be awesome. But nonetheless, like a Game 3, Wrigley Field with an opportunity to face the Brewers and the DS hangs in the balance, and I think it'll be a good buzz at Wrigley.
Very excited for it. We'll be recapping with you here on the Cubs Daily Podcast. As always, thanks for joining us. Game 3. It's a big one coming up tomorrow.
Maybe I'll watch, maybe I won't with you.
We'll see. All right, take care, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.